Hey NFL fans, before we dive into today's hottest stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. From NFL News Now, when you talk about the Philadelphia Eagles in this current era, it is impossible not to start the conversation with the name Jalen Carter. A player who in just his third season has already cemented himself as one of the most dominant and influential defensive linemen in the entire National Football League. And that is precisely why the latest Week 18 injury report instantly grabbed the attention of fans, analysts, and content creators alike. Because seeing Carter's name associated with any physical issue, especially this close to the playoffs, automatically raises alarms throughout the city of Philadelphia and across the NFC, as the Eagles prepare for the final chapter of the regular season. In the year 2025, the timing of this development could not be more delicate, as Carter popped up on the injury report dealing with a hip issue after he did not participate in Thursday's practice, a detail that immediately sparked speculation and concern. Even though the organization has remained measured and calm in its public messaging, Carter's journey to this point in his career is a big part of why this situation carries so much weight. Because from the moment he stepped onto an NFL field wearing midnight green, it was clear that he was not just another talented prospect, but a foundational piece of the Eagles' defensive identity. Over the course of his first 3 seasons, Carter has transformed Philadelphia's defensive front into one of the most feared units in the league, consistently collapsing pockets, disrupting run schemes, and forcing opposing offenses to alter their game plans simply because of his presence. The Eagles have leaned heavily on his strength, explosiveness, and football intelligence. And that reliance only increased as the season progressed and the stakes grew higher. Now, with the regular season winding down and playoff football looming, any limitation involving Carter becomes a storyline that cannot be ignored. What makes this particular injury report even more notable is the context surrounding it. Because Carter was not the only significant name absent from that Thursday practice session. Dallas Goedert, Lane Johnson, Jalen Phillips, and Nakobe Dean were also held out, underscoring how carefully the Eagles are managing their roster as they approach the most important stretch of the year. Still, Carter's situation stands apart because of his unique impact on both the stat sheet and the less visible aspects of the game that coaches and teammates value so highly. A hip issue for a defensive lineman is not something to brush aside lightly, given how much leverage, power, and rotational movement is required on every single snap. Which is why the Eagles' medical and coaching staff will undoubtedly proceed with extreme caution. From a performance standpoint, Carter's season has once again justified his reputation as a true star in the trenches. In his 11 starts, he compiled 33 tackles, delivered 12 quarterback hits, registered 5 tackles for loss, and brought down opposing quarterbacks 3 times. Numbers that only begin to tell the story of his influence. Beyond those statistics, Carter consistently drew double teams, freed up opportunities for his teammates, and set the tone physically for Philadelphia's defense week after week. His impact was perhaps most vividly displayed in Week 17 against the Buffalo Bills, in a moment that perfectly encapsulated his versatility and situational awareness. With the game hanging in the balance, Carter managed to block an extra point attempt that would have given Buffalo an 8-point lead. A single play that swung momentum and ultimately helped secure a thrilling 13-12 victory for the Eagles. That moment did not go unnoticed around the league, as Carter was rewarded with the NFC Special Teams Player of the Week award, a rare and impressive honor for a defensive lineman. That play against Buffalo also served as a reminder of why Philadelphia values Carter so highly. Not just as a defender, but as a complete football player, capable of making game-changing contributions in unexpected ways. It is precisely that kind of impact that the Eagles will need if they hope to make another deep postseason run and defend their Super Bowl throne. Which is why there is little doubt the organization will prioritize Carter's long-term health over any short-term considerations. With the division already secured, there is no incentive to push a player of his caliber back onto the field before he is fully ready, especially when the ultimate goal is success in January and beyond. The broader team context further supports a cautious approach, because Philadelphia has already locked up the NFC East Division crown with an 11-5 record, comfortably ahead of familiar rivals like the Dallas Cowboys, the Washington Commanders, and the New York Giants. That achievement alone speaks to the consistency and resilience of this Eagles squad over the course of a demanding regular season. In the larger NFC picture, Philadelphia currently sits in third place, positioned above the Carolina Panthers and the San Francisco 49ers, while trailing the Chicago Bears and the Seattle Seahawks. This positioning gives the Eagles a degree of flexibility as they head into the final week, allowing them to think strategically about rest, recovery, and preparation rather than purely about immediate results. All eyes now turn to the regular season finale, which will take place at home as the Eagles host the Washington Commanders in front of a passionate Philadelphia crowd. The game is scheduled for January 4th in the late afternoon Eastern Time slot, a fitting stage to close out the regular season before the intensity of playoff football takes over. Whether or not Jalen Carter sees the field in that matchup remains one of the biggest questions surrounding the team, and it is a decision that will likely come down to medical evaluations, practice progress, and a careful assessment of risk versus reward for fans and analysts alike. The hope is that Carter's hip issue proves to be minor, more precautionary than problematic, allowing him to return at full strength when the games truly matter most as the Eagles look ahead. The storyline around Jalen Carter serves as a reminder of how quickly narratives can shift in the NFL, especially at this stage of the season. One week you are celebrating clutch plays, individual awards, and division titles, and the next you are closely monitoring practice reports and injury designations. For Philadelphia, the ultimate objective remains clear, and that is to enter the postseason as healthy, confident, and complete as possible. Jalen Carter is a central figure in that mission, and how the Eagles manage his situation over the coming days could play a significant role in shaping the trajectory of their championship defense as they chase another deep and memorable playoff run. Keep watching as we analyze more details about some rumors. The rumor mill is absolutely on fire right now, and if you are an Eagles fan who lives for chaos, speculation, and that feeling that something big is quietly brewing behind closed doors, you might want to sit back and really listen to this one, because the whispers coming out of the league are getting louder, more confident, and way more intriguing with every passing hour. The idea being floated around is that the Eagles have quietly activated what many insiders are calling a no-fly zone across the conference. Not with a blockbuster trade that shakes the timeline in one single moment, but with a subtle, strategic move that could end up changing the balance of power in ways nobody is fully prepared for yet. The name at the center of all this noise is Sam Darnold. And yes, before anyone jumps down my throat, we are fully aware of the baggage, the debates, and the divided opinions that follow him wherever he goes. But this is where the story gets interesting, because this is not being framed as a desperate move, nor as a simple depth signing, and not even as a clear statement about the starting position. The way this rumor is being whispered is far more calculated, almost chess-like, as if the Eagles are positioning Darnold as a free defender of the system itself, a flexible piece that locks down options, controls space, and forces the rest of the conference to think twice before making aggressive moves of their own. People close to the situation suggest that the Eagles are not just looking at what Darnold has been, but at what he represents in the current landscape of the league. Experience without being over the hill, hunger without being reckless, and a resume that includes surviving pressure, criticism, and constant change in a league where stability at quarterback is currency. The Eagles allegedly see Darnold as a strategic shield, someone who can protect the structure, raise the competitive floor, and quietly make life uncomfortable for every rival trying to map out their path through the conference. What really fuels the no-fly zone narrative is the idea that this move is less about headlines and more about leverage. By bringing in a name like Darnold under the radar, the Eagles are rumored to be sending a message that they are insulated against chaos. Injuries, slumps, or sudden shifts in momentum would not leave them exposed. Instead, they would have a battle-tested option ready to step in, adapt, and keep the machine running. That alone forces other teams to reconsider their own depth, their own risks, and their own sense of security, especially in a conference where margins are razor-thin and one weak link can unravel an entire season. There is also a growing belief that the coaching staff sees untapped value in Darnold that never fully surfaced elsewhere. The narrative floating around is that the Eagles' environment, offensive philosophy, and locker room culture could be exactly what he needs to unlock a version of himself that the league has only seen in flashes. Not a savior, not a superstar, but a calm, controlled presence who can execute, protect the football, and punish defenses that underestimate him. In that sense, calling him a defender makes a strange kind of sense. because his role would be to defend leads, defend momentum, and defend the broader vision of the team as this speculation spreads. Fans are starting to connect dots that may or may not even exist, which is exactly how rumors take on a life of their own. Some are saying this move could influence how opponents game plan, forcing them to prepare for multiple styles and tendencies instead of locking in on one identity. Others believe it could be about internal competition, pushing everyone in the room to sharpen their edge, knowing that nothing is guaranteed and comfort zones are dangerous either way. The underlying theme remains the same: control of narrative, control of options, and control of the path through the conference. What makes this story even more compelling is how quiet everything has been. No dramatic leaks, no flashy announcements, just a steady hum of confidence from those who claim to understand the Eagles' long-term thinking. The phrase no-fly zone keeps popping up, not because of defensive backs or highlight reel interceptions, but because of how this move could limit the airspace for rivals to operate. If you cannot exploit weakness, if you cannot wait for collapse, and if you cannot count on instability, your margin for error shrinks dramatically. Critics, of course, are quick to scoff, arguing that Darnold is a known quantity, that his ceiling is defined, and that this is being overblown. But that skepticism might be exactly what the Eagles are banking on. Underestimation has always been one of the most powerful tools in sports, and there is a sense that this entire situation thrives in that shadow, while others laugh or shrug. The Eagles quietly stack insurance, versatility, and psychological pressure. As the rumor continues to grow, one thing feels increasingly clear. This is not about one player in isolation. It is about how one move can ripple outward, affecting decisions, confidence, and preparation across the entire conference. Whether Darnold ever takes a meaningful snap or simply exists as a constant looming option, his presence alone could be enough to tilt the mental battlefield. And in a league where belief, doubt, and timing matter as much as raw talent, that might be the real story hiding beneath the surface. So as fans debate, argue, and speculate late into the night, the Eagles appear to be doing what they do best when they are at their most dangerous: staying quiet, thinking long-term, and setting traps that only become obvious once it is too late. The no-fly zone might not be something you see on a stat sheet or a highlight reel, but if these rumors hold even a fraction of truth, it could be felt in every cautious decision, every conservative call, and every moment of hesitation from rivals who suddenly realize the sky above them is no longer as open as it once seemed. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and share it with your fellow NFL fans. Stay tuned for more updates, only here on NFL News Now.